Colson Whitehead, please be seated. Welcome. Welcome to our show.
Howdy do.
I'm fine. How are you?
Not bad.
I can imagine. This is your book. It's a big hit in America. Oprah Winfrey is a fan, but also the president.
Outgoing president.
Yes, the outgoing president, Barack Obama. He told that it kept him awake at night. How does it feel having a president among your fans?
Well, you know, you write these books, you never know if people are going to understand what you're getting at, if critics will like them, and sometimes people understand, sometimes they don't. And with this book, a lot of people have sort of understood what I've been trying to get at. And then to have, you know, Obama, who's such a great reader and great advocate for all of his enthusiasms, whether it's music or books. So he put the book on his summer reading list last summer, and I got a lot of calls from like people from high school, like, Obama said, you really made it.
It was crazy.
The reviews, who cares? But Obama liked your book.
I liked it as well. That's not as important as Obama, but I liked it a lot. I read it during my Christmas holidays. It's a heartbreaking story. It really took me by the throat. Sommige van jullie zijn ook beginnen te lezen. Saskia, wat vind je? En tot nu toe?
Ik ben, jawel, fantastisch. Ik ben gisteren begonnen aan 150 bladzijden. Ja, en ik hoor, rond mij was iedereen er al over bezig. En het einde is naar het schijnt waanzinnig. Dus
dat is het zeker.
Ik ga straks terug.
Michiel?
Het confronteert Amerika gewoon heel erg met zijn geschiedenis. Ja. Maar op een persoonlijke manier.
Ja, op een heel bijzondere manier. You need to tell us, explain us. It's about the Underground Railroad. I understand that it is a common fable element in American history, as a metaphor then, eh?
Sure, yeah. In the middle of the 19th century, slaves escaping would be helped by people who were against slavery. So free blacks, white abolitionists. And the Underground Railroad was this network of people helping people escape north. And so you give them a ride, give them money, hide them in your wagon going north or on a river. And it's a metaphor for escape. And I was sitting on my couch one day and thought, wouldn't it be a weird idea if it was a literal railroad? It's very impractical. It's a lot of track to lay beneath the earth. But if I can make that story work somehow...
As if it really existed. As if there was an actual subterranean railway.
So I make the metaphor real in the book. And there's another element where each state our hero goes through as she moves north, North Carolina, South Carolina, is a different state of American possibilities, sort of like Gulliver's Travels. Each island Gulliver goes to is a critique of a different aspect of British society. And so each state in this book is a different aspect of American society.
I see. And it's about a girl, 17-year-old, living on a plantation in 1850 in the Deep South in Georgia. And she manages to escape. Sure,
with a Confederate, and we don't know how old she is. I mean, she could be 16 or 17. Masters didn't keep track of their slaves' ages. You know, a slave is an object, a tool. And you might have a dog named Lassie or something and know that he's 6 or 7 but not know the exact birthday. Why would you keep track? And so she's alone in the world, and a new addition to the plantation has contacts on the Underground Railroad, and they set out to go north.
And she is hunted, of course. Every slave was hunted in those days. But we've seen films and I read books about slavery. But what I didn't know and didn't realize before this book, that it was really an institution. It was a system. The slaves were the fuel for the Southern economy.
Yeah, I mean, we had a civil war over it. I mean, you know, cotton money made America into its, you know, sort of early superpower days. And it affected everyone. You know, if you're a blacksmith, you make the chains that keep the slaves where they are. You make the nails for the new towns, for the new houses that are sprouting up along the cotton routes. And so, as it feeds the economy, it's, you know, paying for blacksmiths. If your slave runs away, you put an ad in a newspaper. There's a guy in a newspaper who specializes in classified ads for runaway slaves. And so it touches everything, and everyone's invested in it, either in tearing it down or keeping it propped up.
Ja. Heb je van je komt uit Amerika nu, Michiel? Ja?
Well, ik ben naar het African-American History Museum geweest, het nieuwe museum in Washington D.C. And you realize how much people made money, so much money on slavery. Hoeveel mensen er involved waren in die industrie. Het was een industrie. En dat is heel fascinerend. Dat is niet zozeer in het boek, maar het is wel inderdaad in de achtergrond, wat jij ook zegt, Colson.
At a certain moment I was really horrified, because Cora is in a hiding place. He's hidden in the attic, hidden by an elderly couple. And she witnesses, from her hiding place, a lynching party of a young girl, while people are standing around her and cheering, almost having fun, on a sort of a festivity.
Well, they were public entertainments, lynchings.
They were.
I mean,
these things really happened.
Sure, you found the black person you're using as a scapegoat. You hang them, and you have grandmother and the grandkids come out, and everybody watches you kill this person who you've heaped up all these sort of false accusations against. And you can buy they would take pictures and put them on postcards of lynchings with a little child smiling.
Postcards?
Yeah, a man hanging and the whole town. And you send them to your relative, like, wish you were here, great time does the lynching. So some of the most earliest photography is lynching photography in the States.
And
Yeah.
is that one of the reasons you wrote the book, to maybe somehow explain all the difficulties between blacks and whites in the States now, or?
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out how the world works for myself, and then if you get it right, you can bring people along. So I'm not trying to educate people. This is how it was. I'm trying to figure out how I can use my crazy ideas and research to create a compelling story, and hopefully people will come along.
Yeah, because it's also, also the way it's written is pretty crazy and not so traditional, because you have those traditional slave stories that are...
Well, I drew from the slave narratives. People would become free, write their books, and those are political pamphlets to tell people in the North how terrible the system is and gain more sympathy for the abolitionist cause. So, as a writer, fiction writer, I get all my nouns and verbs from historical documents. Yeah. So they're
great. You've done a lot of research.
Have you also spoken to white people?
Well, I didn't speak to anybody. Everyone's dead.
Got the stories from the other side?
Well, there's obviously good and bad in all people, and so there are heroic white people. There are villainous slave masters. There are villainous slaves. There are heroic slaves, and that's human beings. And so it's not a polemic against the evil white people. People were horrible.
I interviewed the president of the Ku Klux Klan 2 years ago.
You did?
And it made me very angry. The guy made me so angry.
Yeah, well, I'm doing research on a new book, and I got a history of the Ku Klux Klan in Florida, and it's like, do I have to read this again? I need a break.
But it was 2014. It's 2 years ago.
And do you think a white person could have written this book with the same research, or does it matter that it's you as a black person who wrote?
I think you can... the protagonist is female. Do I have permission to write a female character? You can write outside your gender, outside your race, nationality, if you do it right. If you use your imagination and empathy.
Because it's a big debate now, this appropriation thing. Can I?
Yeah, it's corny. If you get it right, and if you actually do the time to get over your own prejudices and biases, which we all have, and surpass them to create something better.
I would have wanted to write.
Colson, let me read a fragment from the book, something that really struck me. Het is Lester, is een personage dat het opneemt, een blank personage dat het opneemt voor de zwarte, en die zegt op een gegeven moment dit. En ook Amerika is een waanidee, het grootste van allemaal. De blanken geloven met hart en ziel dat het land hun rechters toekomt. Dat ze het recht hebben Indianen te vermoorden, oorlogen te beginnen, hun broeders tot slaaf te maken. Als er in deze wereld ook maar van enige gerechtigheid sprake zou zijn, zou dit land niet mogen bestaan. Want het is gegrondvest op moord, diefstal en wreedheden. En toch zitten we hier. That is a conviction of your country, of the land of the free. Do you feel ashamed about the history of your own country?
In the abstract, I didn't do anything. And I've descended from the people who were actually oppressed. So, people say slavery is the original sin. I think the original sin is obviously land theft of Native Americans. And that's, at the very foundation of the country, we're off on the wrong footing. And we hold up the Declaration of Independence. Everyone is created equal, but of course at the time, black people were not equal, women were not equal. And so our greatest expression of who we think we are is of course a lie until 40 years ago.
So America is built on a lie.
Yes, and I think we try to hide it and we try to dodge it and we try to live up to those great words.
Yeah, and then there's someone who says we are going to make America great again.
Well, great again. I mean, I think he reaches back to some 1950s version of America where a white man could be a white man and didn't have to worry about brown people or women advocating for rights. You know, this great time before all the people...
So those were the great times?
According to Trump. It was also a slogan used by, I think, by the Ku Klux Klan in the 20s.
Yeah.
I think it's also there's also economic aspect of like great again, as in like we produce, we make stuff, we do stuff. But there's a certain element of like in the 50s when it was all calm and you knew who you were and who the others were.
Are you optimistic about the future, Mr. Whitehead?
I have 2 kids, so I have to be. But
have to be.
I think you said 8 years. I think 2 years. I think for Trump, he's going to be impeached. I think he's so corrupt, and
Yes, please.
it's sort of coming. I can't take 4 years. I can't take 8. So I have to wish for at least the slow mechanism of justice to slowly start working.
In your word of thanks at the end of the book, you are grateful to some musicians like David Bowie, and you wrote the last pages of your book listening to Prince. How did he inspire you then?
Well, I grew up in New York, so I always did my homework to the noise of the city. There's sirens, car alarms, someone being strangled, upstairs.
Someone being strangled.
So noise keeps me company, and I listen to music. And this is my 8th book, and whenever I get to the last day of work, I put on Purple Rain by Prince and Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth. And that's like my victory music. I know I've gotten to the very end. If I just work 3 more hours. And so, songs keep me company from book to book.
Goed dat je naar in het geluisterd, want het heeft een prachtig boek opgeleverd, dames en heren. De ondergrondse spoorweg van Colson Whitehead. Thank you so much for being with us.